So you finish your mix and master, but what actually happens when you hand it off to a publisher? I've mastered over 6,000 projects from Grammy-nominated albums to Billboard charting records, and just last week I was backing and forthing on a project to get the assets with the mixing engineer correct for the label. Because I know the label's pretty stickler, we need to make sure we had the right assets and everything would be delivered so the artist, the management, and everybody was happy. So stick around because I'm going to show you the 4 publishing essentials you cannot get wrong, from sample rates and sequencing to deliverables and file naming, so your masters are always publisher ready. So let's start off with the sample rate you work out. It is really important that for during the duration of handoff from the mixing engineer to you as a mastering engineer, you maintain the native sample rate. If you need to upsample or downsample for oversampling, that can be plugin dependent and whatnot, but just maintain that sample rate. And the bit depth, if request 32-bit, because if there's any data over 24-bit that is getting hard clipped, it's going to be hard clipped in your session, and that's not going to be any good. The thing with this is whilst you're receiving whatever sample rate and 32-bit, which is 24 8-bit float, you always want to finish at 24-bit when you're sending off to the publisher, because their libraries, how they service to DSP is going to be 24-bit. It's not going to be 24/8. It's going to be 24. There's a caveat here. I don't know why some labels still use this service, and it's not to discredit the service, because I think it's helped a lot of amazing independent artists and labels get their music out there, but CD Baby's DSP ingestion is still 44:1 16-bit. So beware, you might be requested to produce a 44:1 16-bit file. Now, that is just sort of the crux of sample rate and bit depth, to put it frankly. If you're doing Apple Digital Masters or you're certified for that, you already know that you have to maintain the sample rate from the way the mixes come down. You should never upsample or downsample them. That gets that technical side out of the way. The next thing a lot of people forget is with sequencing is to make sure all the assets match. Publishers and servicing for licensing, for film and whatnot, or use in any other media, your deliverables have to line up. So if you've got stem outs from the mixing engineer, if you've got an instrumental, if you've got a TV mix, they all have to start and end identically with one another. And I mean identically, with the same time markers, the same cutoff times. You can't allow them to deviate, because if you're servicing this for sync in film and the film mixer gets the stems and puts them down, or he gets the TV mix and the main mix and wants to cut between where there's a chorus singing and there's only BVs where there's dialogue, it all has to line up, and the publisher will knock it back if you do not line up your versions. So from the mixing engineer's handoff to you as a mastering engineer, make sure that you request, hey, is this topped and tailed as per the stems? Do I need a top and tailed in my masters? If I do, can you send me the stems as well, and I'll cut them so everything lines up identically, ready for the publisher's database or the publisher to ingest for sync. Now with that, you're probably asking, well, what are the main deliverables you want to provide? So at a bare minimum, you want to have the main master, so the radio master, the TV master, and an instrumental. Having an a cappella is also really good. Now, let's get some terminology down, because the terminology is really important, and I sort of struggled when I started working in the Asian markets to understand some of this terminology, so I'm going to lay it out for you. So in the main master, in the US market, it's called master. If you're following AES TD 1002.5 document, I'll put that up on the screen, you're labeling it as mix master, and in the Asian markets, it's also just master. That's for the main mix. For the TV mix in US markets, you're labeling it at TV mix. As per the AES standard, you're labeling it as no lead vocal. And then for Asian markets, for anybody doing J-pop, K-pop, T-pop, C-pop, you're labeling it as MMO. And this is what confused me. I didn't know what MMO stood for, but it actually stands for mix minus one, which is minus the lead vocal. The next one is instrumental. So based on the US market, you label that as instrumental. If you're following the AES standard, you label it as inst only. at the end of your file. And if you're in Asian markets, you label it as MMA. And again, I didn't know what MMA meant. It actually means mix minus all. For a cappella, you're going to get a mixture of a cappella, lead vocal only, which is the AES standard, or ACA, which is also commonly interused with a cappella. It's good to understand these naming standards, and these tags are usually at the end of the file name to denote which version they are. You want to use these standards, you want to use these naming conventions based on the client. If it's a Chinese label or Thai label, use MMA, MMO. If it's a US one, use that. If nobody's really got a convention, I usually default to the AES standard because the AES standard is a really easy document to follow. And I've always had that guiding me for a long time in my interactions as a mastering engineer and how I format things. And that's actually a really simple hack to do this, is in your session, have the capture channel pre-labeled as the naming format you're going to deliver the files as. So when it writes the file, it already has this naming convention already embedded. Now, some other terminology you're going to come across is radio edits. Now, radio edits can mean two different things. For contemporary pop music, it's going to be the version minus any offensive language. So you got the radio edit. But for DJs and EDM music, where you have extended mixes, and the extended mixes have maybe 16 bars at the start, 16 bars at the end, for DJs to mix in and out for sets, that's the extended mix. And the radio edit is basically the main mix with the extended parts on the start and end taken out. So it's good to recognize that terminology, label your files accordingly for your clients. Now, if you're following the AES naming convention, as we've discussed earlier, you title your material as AA, so you initial the artist. You don't write the artist's full name. You use a 2 or 3 character initial for the artist, underscore the song title, underscore the version. Okay, main mix, the TV mix, whatever it might be. So that's the main naming convention you follow if you're using the AES TD 1002.2.15. Now, I've interpreted that and expanded on a little bit, so that way it has some file data in the file name to help me interpret which version it is. So -0 decibel true peak underscore the bit depth, sample rate, high res underscore mix master. This changes though for different publishers. Some different publishers like to catalog their masters differently. If you look to Universal Music Group, they use the full artist name underscore the track number, which you can omit if it's just a single, underscore the song title, underscore the release format, underscore, and this is important, even for the Australian clients I work for with UMG, they still use American, dates. So underscore month, day, year. And that's their naming convention. And if they're going to ingest the material into their system, you want to make sure that you're producing masters that follow that so it does not get rejected. Now, with this said, there's so many different ways, so many different files, so many different publishers, so many different interactions you're going to have with the mixer, the producer and whatnot. With all of this, it's just important to remain patient, to cross your T's and dot your I's, and always ask if you're unsure, because the worst thing you want to have in the process of putting a project together is a stressed artist or stressed client where they're worried about why something isn't being accepted. You don't want to cast that doubt. You don't want to put yourself at the center of being responsible for somebody else going through a question or having something knocked back. You want to make sure you get your file naming right, your formatting right, they have the right assets, everything sequenced properly so everything matches properly. And I'd rather the pain on my end asking a question or taking a little bit longer to do something in order for my clients to not have to go through that pain and flag it with me. Anyway, I hope this helped you out, and until next time, take care.